Welcome to the Strangers on the Way podcast. I'm so excited to have today's guest with us. He is a middle school teacher by day, trivia host by night, and
Yeah.
I actually met him playing trivia a couple weeks ago. So I'm really excited to have Tim Schulz on the podcast today. Tim, welcome. So excited to have you here.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Would you like to share just a little bit about who you are just as we start? Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Tim. Like you said, I'm a middle school teacher, technically a substitute, but been doing some long-term positions, so I know what it's like. I finally know what it's like to be a teacher when everyone says it's really tough. They
Yeah.
are telling the truth.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do trivia by night as a hobby or like a side gig, a fun way to get out of the house and meet new people.
So fun. When I first heard your voice, I was just like amazed because you have a beautiful like trivia host voice. And so I know we kind of talked about I want everyone to hear it. So finding like a trivia question
Sure.
that we could share with everyone.
Okay, I've got one. Uh,
Do it in your voice.
I'll try.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
amping up the pressure here.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, what historical event is the most watched TV broadcast in the history of U.S. television?
Oh, I bet it's the Man on the Moon.
Yeah, good job.
Yes.
Good job.
Oh, so good. I win.
Well
Uh,
done.
that's awesome. Oh, that's a good one. I love it. Everyone, didn't you love that voice? It's so fun. Yeah.
I know
It's
you built up the expectations.
no,
So,
it was you succeeded. It was awesome.
well, thank you.
Yes, I love it. So when we were playing, some friends and I played trivia at just like the brewery next door to me where I live. Um, I was so like amazed at how the way that you run it is like there's questions and then you would play songs that would have clues that kind of helped with the answers to the questions. So I guess that is something like newer or like something that you came up with, right?
Actually, I didn't come up with it. I can't
Okay.
take credit for that.
Okay.
I make the playlist every week, so I
Yeah.
come up with the clues themselves every week, but
Yeah.
the idea to do the clues, musical clues, I think that's been around for a while. I don't know who started it exactly, but the first
Yeah.
time I started playing, the host did that as well. And I thought, oh yeah, that's fun. And like we might talk about later, I like puzzles and crossword puzzles and games and that sort of thing. So it's along the same lines, trying to
Yeah.
think cleverer, you know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say, clever.
Yes.
And
Definitely.
yeah, try to, be silly with it or unique.
Mhm. Yes. No, I love that. We did Marvel trivia this past week, and I don't know anything about Marvel. My guy friends, they let me come to the movies with them, which is really gracious of them, but I have no idea what's going on. So it was really fun because when we were playing, I was like diving into the song clues, and then it was really fun because one of them, I think, was had a theme of like blue, and it was about colleges,
Mhm.
and I was like, guys, which college like has a blue like mascot or like
Mhm.
color, and that's how we got it right. So it's so fun. I love like games and yeah, creativity like that. So it's
Yeah,
really
thank you. And it takes me some time to come up with those clues as well. So I
yeah.
like hearing that it helps people and they appreciate it.
Yes, it's so fun. How did you get into trivia? Like hosting and playing and all of the above.
Yeah, so going way back, I've always been kind of interested in, I don't know if I'd say interested in, but I sort of like taking tests actually, like in
Mhm.
school and stuff. A lot of the kids dread taking the tests, but I sort of enjoyed it because it just takes a half hour of your time or 40 minutes and you just try your best for 40 minutes and then you're done.
Yeah.
Whereas homework and projects take hours. So
Mhm.
I always kind of like tests for that reason.
Yes.
Um, and watching Jeopardy and stuff with my friends and family always got me into trivia as well. But
Mhm.
the way I started hosting was I played trivia at the place where I host now, where we met.
Mhm.
And it was fun. So I went onto the website to find some more information and I saw, oh, they're looking for hosts and they paid better than I thought they would. So I took
Yeah.
it seriously and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this is something I would actually like. Um, and another thing is I've always been pretty shy, actually.
Hmm.
Uh, Especially like in school, I never really participated. But I also found myself being better at public speaking than most people, like not as
Hmm.
afraid, which is kind of interesting
Yes.
considering I am kind of shy.
Yeah.
So I figured, oh, maybe I'd actually be good at it, and it would also
Yeah.
be a way for me to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and
Yes.
challenge myself and meet
I
new
love that.
people, stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I just started, and people think I'm good at it, good at it. So
You are. Seriously,
well,
it's
thank you.
so fun and entertaining. Oh, that's awesome. That's really neat to like intentionally overcome something by like notice recognizing a gift. It's
Hmm.
really actually interesting. Um I just did a I do a young adults help with a young adult ministry, and I just preached about women preaching.
Hmm.
And I also was shy growing up, but I felt like I always had a gift as well. And
Hmm.
I almost wonder if it's like because we have this gift, if there's like opposition in us not using it through fear or timidity,
Hmm.
um, that presents. But then when we overcome it, it's amazing. That's awesome that you intentionally did that.
Yeah, and it also helps when you are actually interested in something and feel
Yes.
confident in it, then you can sort of get
Yes.
over your other fears. It makes it easier.
Yeah. That's so true. Even when writing messages, I used to get really nervous to deliver them, but then it's like if you believe in your message so much,
Mm,
it's going to help someone. That does like help. You're like thinking about someone else, or like enjoying what
that's
you're doing.
totally true. And
Yeah.
also, if you believe in your message, it doesn't necessarily matter what anybody else thinks about it. Like,
Yeah.
it won't shake your own confidence. So
Yeah.
you can kind of be apart from the result. You can kind of separate the message from the result. And also,
Yeah.
depending on what your message is, people might not necessarily uh, accept it right away, but
Yeah.
maybe you're planting seeds that, you know. So just because you're not getting a positive reaction in the moment doesn't mean that it
Yeah.
was negative or, not worth it.
Yes, it's so good. Do you ever feel that way with teaching? Like, I know middle school is such an interesting age, and you're like, what's being absorbed?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I I still am pretty new since I'm
Hmm.
technically just a substitute, but I have been in the same class since the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Um, it is hard to know what they're absorbing, and a lot of the time it feels like they're completely ignoring ignoring me, and that feels bad. Just standing up there talking and like they're not even paying attention. But
Yeah.
a lot of the time we focus on the negative, like so a few of the students or kids that aren't paying attention, that maybe distracts me from all the kids that are. So
Yeah.
there's
Oh, that's
that dynamic
a good
too.
point. Perspective. So that's really amazing. So you like consider yourself more shy, but then you're
Hmm.
a teacher and trivia hosting. That's really cool. Like,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I, I definitely I definitely see the irony there, sort of. With the teaching, though, it is a bit easier because they're not my peers, so it's like
sure.
I don't really care what they think. Like they're kids, they're gonna think a lot of silly stuff, and not
Yeah.
not that I want to give them more credit. Like kids
Yeah.
deserve a lot more credit than we give them a lot of the time. They have better ideas than we give them credit for a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they haven't been, and they have like newer ideas too, because they
Yeah.
haven't been in society so long. They haven't, you know, bend the knee, I guess you could say. Like,
Yeah.
so, uh, but yeah, it's like it. What I like it when the kids think I'm cool or like me, but if
Sure.
they don't, it's like
It's okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
I got to do what I got to do. But
Yeah.
it was kind of hard for me also, and I'm still learning this is how to discipline, like be kind
Yeah.
of hard on them,
Yes.
which is not something I'm used to doing. Like in any of my previous jobs, I've never really had to manage people, so it does feel a little weird, like telling people what to do and
Yes.
disciplining them. So
Yes.
that's been a learning experience for me too.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. And especially like that age.
Hmm.
Challenging.
Yeah, because they're just becoming adult-ish in eighth
Yeah.
grade. Like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
puberty and stuff like that. So they're
Yes.
yeah, they're definitely emotional and kind of
Yeah.
starting to get smart, starting to
Mm.
rebel against authority a little bit in
Sure.
ways that are reasonable and unreasonable.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Do you have any funny stories from this school year? Obviously not
ooh,
with names, but
right, of course.
yeah.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. If, I just try to get through the day. Every
Yeah.
day is new. I
Yes.
usually need a nap when I get home. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I bet. Yeah. Managing everyone. Yeah. At once. But I know you have some trivia stories that you had, and maybe an interesting encounter your first
oh
couple
yeah, that's right.
times hosting. Any
Yeah,
fun guests?
that's right. So I think it was I should look up the guy's name that from Cheers.
Oh, so
Let me
fun.
see. But yeah,
Yeah.
the it was on like either the very first day I was hosting without a trainer helping me. Um, it was at a restaurant kind of like west of Chicago, a little bit Hoffman Estates. I don't know if you know it, but
Mhm.
uh, pretty small crowd. There were only maybe like 6 teams playing or something, and this one middle-aged guy got into an argument with this one younger woman, probably in her like mid to late 20s. Uh, the middle-aged guy looked like Norm Peterson from Cheers. I don't know if you know who that is, but curly hair and stuff. So it was near the end of the show, and I just see them yelling at each other. So I'm
Oh
like, oh,
my
oh
gosh.
boy, like I'm being challenged already. But I just go over there and ask him what's going on, and then he was accusing her of cheating for having her phone out and texting, and then she was saying, "No, I wasn't cheating." But she said she was texting her friend the question and asking his help for the question. So I was like, yeah, I mean, that is kind of cheating. That's maybe
Yeah.
a gray area, but not really
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah.
So they were fine in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, she also texted her friend saying like, I'm getting called out by Norm Peterson from Cheers, like getting called out for cheating.
That's
So
so funny.
it
Oh
was
my
funny.
God.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
not, that's another thing is that I have classically not been a very confrontational person,
Yeah.
but with teaching and
Yeah.
trivia to a lesser extent, it does kind of force you to
Yes.
take some stuff head on and just get it over with, you know.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Practice it.
yeah, exactly. And then also that a lot of the time with the fear of confrontation, you realize your fears are not really founded in reality.
Yeah.
Or even if they are, it's like if you're confronting someone, it's probably for a good reason. So you just have to,
Yeah.
the reason overcomes any sort of discomfort that you get from the confrontation, for me at least.
Yeah. Tim, you're brilliant. So
Well,
good. Yeah, it's good.
thanks.
A friend of mine, we were actually talking about this last night, and just like want to talk to a family member and like just help encourage them, but I'm nervous at how it would be received. And
Mhm.
she was saying like, "Oh, it's really interesting. Like you're getting a lot of opportunities to be courageous." And it kind of shifted my perspective of like, oh yeah, like that is actually the only way we grow by like
Mhm.
overcoming or facing fears or like we actually do have to go into it and do it. And even if it's
Mhm.
not perfect, that is how we grow.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just a neat way to think of it.
Yeah, totally true. That's and yeah, also about the not being perfect. That's another thing I used to struggle with personally. Is
Yes.
it's kind of funny that I've become a teacher or a substitute because I was a terrible student when I was a kid.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I never did any of my homework or projects. I barely passed high school. I had like a C GPA.
Yeah.
Um, and looking back, part of the reason is because I think part of the procrastination was I wanted things to be done really well. Like I took a certain degree of pride in my work and wanted it to be perfect. But
Yeah.
then if I wasn't up for the task of making it really good, then I would just not do it at all. Instead of
Yeah.
doing like a mediocre job, I would do no job at all, which
Yeah.
is worse. It definitely is worse. So I've learned you got to do you got to do something. It's better to take the time out and do a really good job, but doing a mediocre job is better than no job at all
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah. That's such a good point because there is like a pressure with perfection where it is almost paralyzing.
Hmm.
And even like when I was writing my book, I kept editing it and then I was like, well, it's not gonna be perfect, like, but I'd rather have it out there and then just to see people that it has touched them.
Mm,
And it's I still like think I could improve it, but
hmm.
it's like, well, at least it's out there helping
Yeah,
people. So that is really
that's totally
interesting.
true. And also
Mhm.
the other thing is most people are their own harshest critic as well. So
Yes.
like it's probably a lot better than you realize most of the time.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Ah, you're so smart. I was wondering I was wondering if you're one of those students that like my brother was like this. It's like you're so brilliant that like school is boring for you on the
um
other end of the spectrum, you know?
yeah, it honestly it did kind of start out that way maybe.
Yeah.
But also I wouldn't I wouldn't say I'm that smart. Like there it definitely caught up to me where the content got challenging enough that it wasn't just me being bored. It was like, okay, I need to start learning this, like in
Mm,
calculus and stuff like that. Yeah,
sure.
so like math was maybe came too easy to me for
Sure.
a long time, and I was maybe lazy, but then I didn't actually start to try and learn what I needed to, so I got left behind, and eventually I ended up doing decently in
Yeah.
calculus, but it took me a while. I
Yeah.
failed once, so
Yeah. Hey, that's okay.
exactly.
Yeah. Yep, that's okay. Oh, that's yeah, that's neat. I mean, not it's not fun failing, but it's we can grow through it, right?
Well, yeah, and also it's better to fail earlier in life. Get the
Mhm.
lessons out of the way early.
That's a good perspective.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's really good. Hmm. Yeah. Well, what else? I know you have some fun hobbies. What else do you love to do, or what else are you passionate about?
Yeah, I like board games.
Yes. Were you like a board game family growing up?
A little bit, a little bit. More so, I played with a lot with my friends, like a lot of
Mhm.
the classic Pictionary and
Yes.
Taboo and Monopoly and stuff like that too.
Yes. So
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. There's definitely been like a resurgence in more advanced board games
Mm-hmm.
um, that are a lot more complex than Monopoly and a lot
Yes.
more fun, in my
You play
opinion.
those like strategic ones?
Uh, yeah, I used to be more into the strategic ones, although
Mhm.
it's harder to find people to play with. Most
Yeah,
people like the more party style,
sure.
which I enjoy too.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
there've been a lot of new board games released
Yeah.
past like 20 years even. Like there's
Yeah.
a website called boardgamegeek.com that has
Oh,
a list of it's like a haven for all board game fans. It's got a list of pretty much every board game ever made and like reviews. People
cool.
make custom content for them.
Cool.
Yeah,
Huh,
yeah,
I
it's a
had
lot
no
of fun.
idea. That's awesome. What's your favorite board game of all time?
Ooh, of all time.
Yes.
Um, so you've probably never heard of it, but it's I like a game called Baseball Highlights 2045.
Okay,
Yeah.
explain it.
So it's a card game. It's almost like you know the card game War, where you
Yes.
just like flip over the top card and
Right.
then whoever has the
Yeah.
highest card wins.
Yes.
It's almost like that, but way more skill involved. You basically have a deck of cards where each card is like a baseball player, and
Okay.
then the card says different things like maybe this guy hits a double, or this guy hits a triple, or this guy hits a home run, or this
Yeah.
guy gets an out, or something like that. So there's offensive and defensive cards, and you play against an opponent and play off of their card. Whatever they played last, you play something to counter it or do better
Cool.
than it, and then you build your team throughout the game and get new players. Yeah, it's simple but fun, and
No, yeah.
it's
Sounds
got a
fun.
cool theme. It's got the baseball theme, like
Yeah.
a lot. All the cards are fake names, but a lot of them are named after real players. So it's
Cool.
fun to see, like, look and see who the fake names are named after.
Yeah. I love that. Are you a baseball fan?
Not really. That honestly,
Yeah.
that game made me a little bit more of one.
Mm-hmm.
It probably was baseball was probably the first sport that I did like growing up. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up in Shaker Heights, Ohio,
Okay.
from when I was like 6 years old till 10, which was '96 through 1999, about then. And I don't know if you know baseball, but Cleveland was really good back then.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a big fan. I was a big fan of
Yeah.
them back in the day. And then I fell off a little bit because it is a pretty boring sport, frankly. Uh, but
Yeah.
I appreciate it for other stuff too. Like
Yeah.
it's it's nice to have on in the background, and it's actually more, in a lot of ways, it is more of a strategic sport than most other
Hmm.
sports because it is a little bit slower paced, and the managers have more time to shift, the infield and outfield positions, and do pinch runners and pinch hitters and that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it more nowadays than I did like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yes, sports in general, I was way more into them in high school. Now
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
I like it as background noise to fall asleep to nowadays.
That's fair. I mean, that's true. I growing up, we'd go to my grandparents' house on Sundays and they'd always have some game in the background and I'd nap and fall.
Hmm.
And it was like the most comforting thing. So I get that. Aw, that's so fun.
Yeah.
And you like puzzles and crossword puzzles?
Yeah, I've recently gotten more into crossword puzzles.
Cool.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before we started. The New York Times app,
Hmm.
they release a new crossword puzzle every day, and they've got the mini crossword puzzle and Wordle and
Yeah.
connections
Yeah.
all in one place. So
So
that
fun.
that is a nice way to kill 5 minutes to an hour. However much
Yeah.
time you want to spend on it. And I
Yes.
race with my friends, and we share the scores and stuff. But yeah, I like alternate ways of thinking of things, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
which a
Cool.
lot of the time the crossword puzzles, the clues have some clever. They make you feel clever
Yeah.
when you get the answer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I love that. Alternate
yeah,
ways of thinking. That's such a cool phrase.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I I remember first getting into them actually when I was in high school, my
Hmm.
senior year of high school. This was before smartphones were really a thing. It was even before computers were. I
Yeah.
mean, computers were around, of course, but nowadays, shifting gears a little bit,
Yeah.
teaching middle school, every kid has their own Chromebook now. So like,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
which is a
Yeah.
good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to happen, but that was a big shock to me because when you and I were in middle school, that
I
was not a
know.
thing at all. They had to like wheel in the cart
Gee.
of the
Oh my
laptops, and
gosh, that's true.
yeah,
They
it was
would.
a big special ordeal. Or they had the overhead projector with the
Yeah.
lamp and the transparency.
Yeah.
That's how most teachers did the
Yeah.
presenting on the board.
That's
Um,
so true.
but
Oh,
yeah, connecting that back to the crossword puzzles, I used to go to the library every morning and get the newspaper and take the crossword puzzle page, and then I would pass it, like passing notes in high school, but passing the crossword to see it around the class to see if people would
oh,
be able to answer
fun.
something that I couldn't do. Yeah,
I
the
love
teachers
that.
probably didn't enjoy it, but yeah, it was fun. Um,
Oh, that's so fun. I love that. Yeah, that's cool. And then you are passionate about animal rights too. How did that
yeah.
come to be?
So this also goes way back, um, from when I was about like 3 or 4 years old, and I
Mhm.
remember I was in the grocery store with my mom, and we were in the deli section, and there was a sign that said like beef, and then it showed a picture of a cow, and then pork, picture of a pig, and then
Mhm.
chicken, and a picture of a chicken. And I was like, "Oh, the chicken you eat, that's not the same as the chicken the animal, right?" And
Mm.
then my mom was like, "Oh yeah, of course it is." And I was
Mm.
like, that was just so messed up to me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. So I went vegetarian after that. I went vegetarian after
When
that,
you
and
were 4 years old.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and then so I was vegetarian for like 15 years or a little bit longer,
Yeah.
and then started eating meat again for like 8 years, and now I'm a vegan. So I went
Yeah.
all the way back and then some. So
Yeah.
yeah, I learned about like the egg and dairy industry and everything that goes on with that. And basically, it just stems from seeing animals as individuals, as like unique individuals. And
Mm-hmm.
when you do that, veganism kind of follows naturally from that, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. Like not using them for what they can provide to us, but treating them as their own individual with a will to live and a will to their own bodies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty passionate about that. I'd like to get into more advocacy, though I haven't yet.
Yeah. Wow. You have such a like a merciful heart.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like amazing because when we're young, there's like there are things we care about
Hmm.
or passions that we have, and it's amazing because it's expressed like when we're like youngest part like of ourselves, and then
Hmm.
sometimes we lose sight of it. Um, and I just think if we go back to who we were as kids,
Hmm.
like it kind of shows like what our purpose is in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
so that's really neat. Even as like a 3 or 4 year old, you just had a heart like that.
Yeah. I totally agree with what you said. And
Yeah.
I do think, kind of like we talked about earlier, that I forget if this was before we started recording or not, but I
Yeah.
said like kids, we don't give them enough credit for. They
Yeah.
have a lot of good ideas. They haven't been, beaten down by society yet. so,
Yeah.
so you are
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I think as far as animal rights is concerned, the kids, most kids, and most people in general hate seeing animals die or hate seeing animals being abused.
Yeah.
So it's it really is simple. Like we kind of have tricked ourselves as adults into thinking it's okay. But
Mhm.
if you ask most kids, they definitely have a more like untainted sort of view on that sort of thing. Like they have a more pure and accurate view on what's happening with animals and maybe some other stuff too.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like there is like the purity and the innocence and the even just the kids are so real and
Hmm.
say it like whatever is on their mind and very yeah, direct and but in like a beautiful way. So, and
No, I know
obviously
what you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that before we started. Actually, there's
Yeah.
some adage I forget, but it's like the three types of people that'll tell you the truth are like kids, elderly people, and drunk people. So the kid the kids probably say it more beautifully than the drunk people, but yeah,
Oh, that's
that's
so funny. That's true. Wow, that's great. Yes, that's what I love about old people. I used to plan reunions and for like 50 years and they would just say it like it is.
hmm.
It's like, yeah,
Well, yeah. There's
have
not
that
enough time left to to BS
right,
you. Like
right,
you
right.
gotta just life is short. Just be
Yep.
honest. Be honest with yourself and everyone else.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Oh, I love it. Well, anything else like any advice you want to share with listeners or any like encouragement or something that you've learned recently that you just want to share as we kind of wrap up?
Mm, advice? Mm, nothing. Nothing too profound. I guess just be honest with yourself. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of generic, but it's true.
Yeah.
Be honest to yourself. Be true to yourself. Don't care so much about what other people think.
Yeah.
Care about what you think first, and just if you are passionate about something and know something is right, then go through with it and stand by it.
Yeah. So good. Oh, I love it. Well, it was such a joy having you on the podcast. Thank you for just your trivia and all your insights. And thank you for shaping the next generation as
Oh,
well.
sure. You're welcome. Thank you. That was fun.
So good to meet you.
You too.
Thanks.